Hi, everyone. I'm Pascale Hansen, CEO and financial strategist at Zeta, an advisory firm created to help business owners in North America achieve more through business planning, education, and consulting. One thing that makes us unique is that we work with a vast network of vetted experts and strategic partners to help our clients keep thriving. What follows is an excerpt from a conversation I had with Mike Hardie about corporate selling. I've divided that long conversation into three topics within corporate selling: prospecting, handling objections, and closing. This is part one on prospecting. And I think whether you're in the C-suite or you have a small or large sales team, there's some nuggets of wisdom within this conversation that you might find interesting and that you can share with your business development teams. Now, Mike is the only sales professional I know that has a long track record of consistently being over his sales quota in Q1 of the fiscal year across multiple industries. I hope you enjoy the conversation. Today, I'm delighted to have with me an ex-colleague and dear friend. His name is Mike Hardie. I met Mike when I worked at American Express many years ago. I was in sales. I took care of British Columbia. Mike was on the East Coast in Toronto, and I got a call from him one day. So he had worked for many years in the finance department and really wanted to get into sales. So he called me. He wanted to pick my brain and get a lay of the land. And I had a conversation with him. And in my attempt to help him, I really wanted to highlight all the negative parts of sales. So I love sales, been doing it for 20 plus years, but I didn't want to paint a picture of, oh, it's lots of fun and it's networking and you can wine and dine people and take them to hockey games and it's all great. So just so he could make an informed decision. I found him to be very confident. I didn't know him before, and I certainly don't stereotype people saying, well, if you work in this particular field doesn't mean you don't have other talents and can do other things. So I thought, well, I hope he makes it. If he joins the sales team, great. I'll meet him when we go to Toronto, and didn't think much more of it. And so when I actually met Mike for the very first time, it was for a national sales conference, and American Express that year adopted the sales practices from a book called The Challenger Sale, which is how to sell based on education. So everyone had to be on the same page, and we all had to meet as a team to practice and learn how to do that. And so that was the first time I met Mike. So I was with my sales team at a table in a hotel room somewhere, and we went around the table. First time I met him, I think I sat next to you, Mike, and it was his turn to present based on all the things that we had studied. And he had this, I think, 1 or 2 slides to actually explain something very complex. So even though we're selling corporate travel at the time, so that sounds really easy, it can get very complicated. And so he had 1 or 2 slides, and they were so simple, and he managed to capture everything. And I sat there and I was so impressed. I'm like, wow, I have to change everything I do. And I thought, wow, this guy is incredibly smart. I have to learn from him. And so needless to say, he went on to do very well in sales. And within that year, won all kinds of awards, was top salesperson of the year, went to different industry, did it again there, now works with WestJet, and we're in January and he's already above quota. So he has become a dear friend of mine. He's great to brainstorm with. I learn from him all the time about sales and business, and so I had to have him as a guest. And so our topic today, speaking of sales, there's lots of different components. Today we're going to talk about prospecting. So with that very long introduction, thanks for being here, Mike.
I need to bring you everywhere I go to introduce me. That was phenomenal, and complete lies that I'm that good.
Yeah, well, he is, and then some. So when we're talking about sales and I do find it very unique to be completely new to sales and then consistently do well. I think I can speak for most salespeople. Sometimes we have a good year, sometimes it's not as good. We're always sort of aiming high, but to do it consistently, you must objectively be doing something really well. So today we're going to talk about prospecting. So educate us. What are your thoughts on prospecting?
Something that you need to do every single day. It's a muscle that you need to reflex. Nobody ever, as I always say, defaults to prospecting. But it is integral to getting the deal. No deal ever closes if it doesn't get open in the first place. So in my opinion, I think that there's the science and art to sales. When it comes to prospecting, I like looking at it at a science side and trying to break out what is your target, to how many accounts that you have to close, being completely objective and saying, what is my actual deal size? And getting to that number of, okay, so how many outreaches do I have to make every day to be able to achieve my number? And literally making that, and I just spoke to someone about it earlier today, making that the first thing that you do every day. I don't typically open my emails. My boss probably hates it, but I don't open my emails till 10 a.m. Because that brings out the other world's priorities into my life, where if I don't prospect every day, I'm not going to reach my sales quota. And if I don't reach my sales quota, it's a different conversation. So making sure that you have that time put aside to be able to really focus on getting the work done.
So really time management and blocking that time, no matter what, I got to get this done.
Yeah, well, it's like the gym. I don't like jogging, but I do it every day. And it's that incremental time of saying, okay, this is how much time I'm going to need. It's going to be an hour and a half of focused time. I turn off my Outlook. I turn off my instant message. I get rid of distractions because like everyone else, everyone gets distracted in life. And you say, okay, for an hour and a half, can I focus completely on reaching out to my prospects? And when you reach out to them, am I adding value to their life? Because you're either a value giver or you're a time waster. And if you're a time waster, you're going to get objections, which we can get into. If you're a value add, more than likely, you're going to be able to open up some doors. Not all the time. Not all the time will they say yes, but more times than not, you should be able to open up some doors and get the meeting and conversation going.
So when we're talking about cold calling, do you find there's a particular days of the week, time of the day that's better than the others? Like when you block time away?
I don't even go by days. I don't go by times. I go by if I'm going to do it. So 9 times out of 10, and I just literally spoke about this again earlier today, I will cold call and I will get a voicemail. So to me, it doesn't matter what time. It doesn't matter if I get the person on the phone. It matters that I've made the activity. So have I called? The answer is yes. If I've called, have I left a voicemail? I know that some salespeople say, don't ever leave a voicemail. I always say that you should. If you don't leave a voicemail, to me, that's the same as knocking on someone's door and running away before they open it. Doesn't make much sense to me. So call, make sure you have a talk track that's available that you can add value to them, that they will take that meeting from you. And if not, leave a voicemail. Don't expect them to call you back. You leave a voicemail like, hi, my name is Michael Hardie. I'm working with WestJet in business development. My phone number is such and such. Just calling to get 20 minutes on your calendar because I think there's a real chance that we can help save you some money. Please give me a call back at this number. If I don't hear from you, I'll be reaching out to you again in about a week's time.
And do you follow up that voicemail with an email?
There is Combo Prospecting, which is a book that's out there that some people say call, leave a voicemail, and then email right away. To me, I think just in the Canadian market, personally, it's a bit aggressive. I don't. But what I will do is I have a prospecting cadence where I will call, leave a voicemail. Then if the following week, if I haven't heard back from them, I'll send them a follow-up email. It's Michael Hardie from WestJet. Gave you a call last week. I know that you're really busy. Thought it might be easier to communicate over email. Just wanted to get some time on your calendar because I think that there's these areas that we can help you with. Just looking for 20 minutes. And so go from there.
I just broke your rule because now I find I always leave a voicemail and then follow up the email as per my voicemail, just in case they don't, because honestly, I'm guilty of, I really don't like checking my voicemail, but if you send me a text or you send me an email or better yet, a message on LinkedIn, I'll answer that first. So.
Yeah, no, I'll be honest with you. I've done both. It quite frankly depends how close or how far away I am from my sales quota and how aggressive I get. I try and stay on top of it so I don't have to get overly aggressive. But I think that a cadence of outreaching once per week to the person is more than sufficient. You want to be, as I call it, professionally persistent.
Right. So any other tips in terms of prospecting other than adding value? Like I always sort of keep my prospects, clients top of mind. So if I read an article or a book that pertains to them, you know, I'm calling them or emailing, hey, I just thought of you. I saw this, you know, there's this conference or this book. I think you'd enjoy it because it speaks to XYZ.
Yeah, so definitely, I look at it in two different buckets. So prospecting is I've never talked to the person, is cold. If I've talked to them and I know what book might be appropriate for them, that's a whole other category. And what I do is once I do meet them, I leverage some kind of tools. I can go into that another time, but I will write down if they have kids, whatever information I can find, what sports team they like, what music they like, what books that they read, which authors that they like. Because if things do come top of mind, it's a great trigger to reach out to them. What I like to do is create like a cadence where I say it takes about 12, in my opinion, it takes about 12 outreaches until someone's going to potentially answer you. So in other words, don't get upset when you don't hear from someone. But every week you got to be doing something different.
And so in your CRM, are you using Salesforce now, or what CRM do you use?
Well, the company I work for right now doesn't use Salesforce, so I use good old Excel, to be honest with you.
Okay.
But what I have is I go, okay, so week 1 is outreach number 1. So that's a cold call with a voicemail. Week 2, that's an email follow-up with an ask, that ask being for time on their calendar. That's all I'm looking for is 20 minutes of their time. I don't ask for more. I think that we need to be respectful of people's time. I think in most cases, 20 minutes is more than sufficient to know if there's interest. I always say if I can understand neuroscience in a TED Talk in 18 minutes, I don't need more than 15 for WestJet.
And
reach number.
Yeah, go ahead. No, reach number 3. Sorry, interrupted you. Go ahead.
Yeah, no. I'm just giving you an example of what it looks like. So like outreach number 3 would be a case study, but there'd be no ask to it. Another outreach might be an article not from WestJet, but an article from a third party. When I worked for another company, I used an article that was provided by the government of Canada, because if it comes from the company itself, it looks like propaganda. Right. If it doesn't come from the company, it looks like you're adding value. And the email's simple. It's, hey, Pascale, came across this article, really shows how this might be something that might be a concern to your company. That's the idea. Or here's an idea that other companies have done to save money. Thought this would be of value to you. Have a great day. And leave it at that. You want to be giving value before you ask. You can't ask for something before you've given stuff, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm on the same page there. And so tell us a little bit, do you use LinkedIn for prospecting at all? If so, how you found using LinkedIn and what have you done?
So I use LinkedIn. I used to be on it a lot, I'll be honest with you. I think you would know this. I would leverage a whole bunch of tools. I've done the social selling thing. I find that it's an important tool to use because I think that you want to use every different mode of communication that you can, whether it's cold calling, whether it's email, whether it's LinkedIn. I've even done direct mail, to be honest with you. I just want to get the message out there. But when I do use LinkedIn now, I use it literally to get sales lists that are targeted. I use LinkedIn to find the person that I want to talk to. I use LinkedIn from a research perspective. I don't find email any more responsive than email.
But you're using Sales Navigator.
I do use Sales Navigator because Sales Navigator is probably one of the best tools out there to get a clean list. So if I go, I'm in Toronto, as you know. So Toronto, I'm looking for this industry with employees that are 500 and above. It's the best way to get a list out there.
Right.
But as far as interacting through, I don't like the messenger personally. I find the messenger isn't always responsive. So I try and go offline as quickly as possible. Okay. But if someone wants to talk to me on LinkedIn, I'm talking to them on LinkedIn.
Right. And so just to finish off the prospecting topic, we had a brief conversation about this earlier today about, looking at your year, you're starting a brand new sales quota year, and you've got these big whales or elephants, whatever you want to call them, that you're like, oh, if I could just get that big one, just that one, then I'm like done for the year. And I'm like Mike Hardie, and I'm 300% to quota. Any
300, I wish.
any idea of, or what would you say in terms of just thinking of big whales? How do you need to balance that out?
I think the reality is, especially in the Canadian market, is recognizing that there are not as many whales as we'd like to think there are. What I've always tried to do, and I learned this the hard way, because I used to be a big time whale hunter. When I started at Amex, when we were working there together, that's basically all they had me do was a whale hunt. And it's great when you get a couple of them. It's really bad when you don't, because you don't have that backup. So what I do now is literally go, okay, you need to go, as I call it, the big whale hunting or elephant hunting or whatever you want to call it. You have to have those in the pipeline, but you also have to have those little mid-market deals that you're willing to get. Those set of, let's say, the $1 million deals, those $150,000 deals, or let's say that those quotas are too high. Instead of a $100,000 deal, the $40,000 deal. You have to be able to fill in those gaps, let's say, in your goal, so that when that whale or elephant does land, it completely blows your quota out of the water. But to rely on them, it's really difficult, in my opinion. Sales cycles are longer. Everything about a whale, more time it takes. They are great when they do land. They are painful when they don't.
Right. There is no free lunch, right?
Nope, that's for sure. I haven't found one.
Well, you would if you came to Vancouver more often. Okay, I think that's a really good way to wrap up this particular section. So we'll talk to you at a later date about other parts of sales. So before I let you go today, so thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, but I'm going to throw a question out at you, and you might have heard it if you listened to our first podcast, but I'm going to ask you anyway. If you could have dinner with anyone, dead or alive, famous or infamous, who would that person be and why?
Person is not famous or not infamous, but it would be my grandfather. Now I just threw you for a loop. Long story short, I'd love to sit down as an adult and speak to my grandfather. So he basically grew up in England, to give you some background on why I would want to.
Yeah.
Father passed away at a young age. So as a teenager, he had to be the man of the house. He ended up being in both the world wars, guerrilla warfare in Africa, came back to England, created an aluminum company with his friends, sold it to Alcan, and was retired at 40. I think it was 40, maybe 45. He passed away when I was probably 20, when I was 28, 29, way too young to be smart enough to ask the right questions. I wish I could do it then.
Right. That's a great answer, and it's great to ask these kind of questions because I learned something I didn't know about the people that I'm speaking to. So thank you very much, Mike. Deeply appreciate it.